Multi-phenomena researcher Paul Sinclair is joining us today in this exclusive interview as part of our ongoing coverage of the Awakening UFO and Conscious Life Expo in Blackpool. This is Europe's premier consciousness event going well beyond the nuts and bolts of UFOlogy. I'm Kristen Gillespie, your conscious investigative reporter, and we are bringing this coverage to you in affiliation with Zohar Entertainment and Gaia. Gaia is your conscious streaming network with a library of over 9,000 videos designed to upgrade your spiritual journey. So please click on the links below to subscribe to Gaia today. If you're interested in attending the Awakening UFO and Conscious Life Expo, please go to ticketquarter.co.uk and see the information in the description box below. We are here with Paul Sinclair. Paul, thank you so much for being with us today. You're an author of 5 books and the investigator of strange phenomena, and you're going to be covering Wolflands. So can you tell us how your latest research on this cryptid phenomena ties in the paranormal, the supernatural, ufology in a world of multi-phenomena?
And I'm glad you used that word, Kirsten, multi-phenomena research, because that's essentially what I would like to be labelled as, and not boxed as a UFO researcher or a cryptid researcher, which is kind of what's happened in the genre of UFOs, cryptids, big cat sightings for many, many years. And I think people are starting to wake up now to the fact that all of this is linked, even if we don't understand how. So writing the first book, the local newspaper, for me, a few papers, put an advert in saying that local author is looking for stories of the strange and unusual. Well, I was expecting UFO reports, possibly alien abductions, the big cats that we don't have in the UK, but are seen, so we know that they're there. But in amongst it, I started receiving reports from a little village called Flixton here in North Yorkshire. And basically, there were reports of a werewolf of all things. And when I started looking into it in a little bit more detail, these stories go back hundreds and hundreds of years, back to 937 AD, if we can relate it to that, when the then king Athelstan, asked that a refuge built at Flixton for the protection of travellers, lest they be devoured from wolves. And then the writing goes on, and an infestation of savage beasts, lest they be devoured. Now, it could be a play on words, but we're going back 1,084 years. And we didn't have bears. They'd long since become extinct. So the only apex predator was the wolf. So what was the infestation of savage beasts? Now, I wouldn't have followed that through if not for the fact that we've got people, I've got reports from 30s, 40s, 50s, right up to present day, in and around the area of Flixton, who claim to have seen something that's fur covered in the shape of a man, essentially with a dog's head, the werewolf. Or as people have wanted to rename this creature, the dog man. So we began 2 years ago interviewing witnesses who've been, the witness is paramount to me. It's far more above the sensationalism of the story. And we've got genuine people from all walks of life who've got no connection to one another, gamekeepers, just people who've come on holiday or visiting the area, who claim to have seen is what I've just been talking about, something that's described as a werewolf. And it's from there it's grown. So when we talk about Wolflands at the Awakening conference, obviously I wouldn't want to be labeled as a cryptid researcher, multi-phenomena. And we will also show that there are multi-phenomena events taking place in these locations of high strangeness, but within the concentrated zone. So without going into the talk, but there are things happening days, weeks before cryptid sightings. I'm showing that we can tie it in with UFO related sightings, light form phenomena, which I've termed ILFs, intelligent light forms. So we've got all these things presenting at the same time, or in and around the same time, in these concentrated areas. So yeah, it's quite an interesting talk. I hope it's going to be anyway.
ILFs, werewolves. My word, my head's already spinning. And that could conjure up some fear in some people. How do you
Well,
feel these beings are here to uh, contribute to humanity, ascension, the expansion of consciousness, or are they indeed something that we should have a healthy amount of fear around?
the leading thing throughout all of the sightings has been the fear factor. The people that have seen these things have obviously felt extreme fear, but I'm not so sure that, because we've not had any injuries reported or anything like that, and I'm not so sure that these things are a solid flesh, blood and bone creature. I know all this is pure speculation. I do realize that people believe these things are habituated and breeding within remote areas, especially of the United States of America, because of the great expanses that you've got. But I don't actually think that's what we're dealing with. There's so many contributing factors that take us away from that. One thing is what I've called the lower silence, what people experience often before a paranormal event, because we'll not just label the cryptids, UFO event, abduction type event, this strange, people have called it the Oz factor, this strange descent into this disjointed reality that people are thrown into, and that takes it away for me from a normal flesh and blood creature. The perception that these things with some of the witnesses in Wolflands think that this creature that's been observing them, that they've stumbled upon, can actually sort of know what they're thinking. What the mechanics of that work, I don't know, but as I say, there's so many factors at play for me that take it away from a normal type animal. I know the Native American Indians, and I've spoke to quite a few, not just during the research of Wolflands, but over the years, when we're talking about skinwalkers, believe that it's a creature that can live between worlds. So yes, you have got some substance when it's here, but that's the ability it has. I'm not subscribing to that idea 100%. I mean, the jury's out and I'm open to be learned myself. It's just that the things that I'm picking up from this, I mean, we've got one account in Wolflands where a man sees such a creature at a place called Speeton, which is not far from where I live. And a few days before, there's a huge sphere of light seen on a hillside, which is documented, and we've got a witness talking about it. And I think, I know it's 2 days before. Now, I'm not saying that the cryptid and the sphere of light, somehow one's traveling in the other, that's not what I'm saying. What I am saying, though, are areas around the world. There are places such as we've just touched on, skinwalkers, and where I'm researching primarily Bempton, where multi-phenomena events are taking place. Now, maybe it's just an enabler. Maybe there's something within the geology, within the structure of whatever it is in that area that is enabling many types of unexplained phenomena to present. Or, alternatively, it could be something like a hive mind. And speculation here, but if you're interested in UFOs, then this phenomenon, which is obviously very, very clever, because everybody watching this who's got an interest in the subject, everybody coming to conferences who's got an interest in the subject is looking for answers. And they've probably had their own experiences. And the one thing that runs through it all, the thread that runs through it all, is none of us have got those answers. But we've all had profound experiences, or the majority of people have, and they're so profound that they've sort of etched into your mind, you can't take them out, but that's the only place they exist. Doesn't make it any less real. So jumping back to the phenomena, it's obviously very clever to be so evasive. So what if I'm a UFO researcher interested in structured nuts and bolts UFOs? Well, that's what I'm going to say. Cryptid researcher, that's what I'm going to say. I'm not saying that's how it works, but there are so many connotations and sort of theories out there, and I think we've got to take a little bit from everything, and hopefully with the help of other researchers in other sort of aspects of the phenomena, the UFO research, the abduction research, we can probably find some answers. Multi-phenomena, it's a collective word that but it's encompassing everything. It's a conglomerate of everything that we're looking into.
I'm digging the term multi-phenomena, and I really get it, and I see the need for it within this entire field of investigation. I am really curious about the capabilities of these interdimensional beings, shall we call them, potentially being able to be telepathic in some way. I'm also curious how this particular werewolf phenomena measures up to other research that you've done, other phenomena that you've encountered and experienced personally. What's been the highest strangeness you've ever personally experienced?
Well, we'll jump away then temporarily from the awakening talk, and that would be my own experiences from childhood to, well, I wouldn't say to present day. I would think it stopped for me, or it really tapered off about 1998. I'm 59 years old now, but from the age of about 6, what can you say? They were beings. I saw them. You know, it was Whitley Strieber that asked me to get, or recommended that I'd look for my medical records and get them all and see what's been happening. And it's interesting when you can read them, and you've got doctors and skin specialists absolutely, the words perplexed by the punch hole lesions that were appearing on, as they said, this young man's body throughout 94 to 98. I knew what was happening, but due to the stigma that's attached to the subject, I sort of never said a word about any of this, apart from to my wife and my close family for, well, up until writing Night People, really, to be honest with you. And it was literally a documentation of everything I could remember from childhood. We'll say to present day, but Night People's been out about 18 months, you know. So yeah, and my own experiences, I could have just said that a lot simpler, couldn't I, Kirsten? My own experiences. But yeah, you kind of get an idea with that then why someone's so entrenched in the subject. But it's, you know, and as I say, I never set out looking for anything cryptid related. It came whilst writing the first book, the Flixton Werewolf, and but you know, the folklore of the area, the oral stories have been there hundreds and hundreds of years. I'm not breaking new ground. I'm treading in other people's footsteps, because and there's got to be an essence of truth, I believe, in them, because I'm receiving similar stories to what people received hundreds and hundreds of years ago about the huge dogs with flaming red eyes that were said to inhabit and roam the cliff tops and the ancient moors and forests of East and North Yorkshire. And all I'm doing is, in present day, is gathering the same kind of reports. All we're doing now is dressing them up differently, and of just different terminology, different words, essentially as we've advanced, you know. But I don't think the stories have advanced that much. I don't think we're looking at anything different to what these people were looking at back in ancient times.
Agreed. Can you give us a headliner of your presentation?
Headliner. Well, basically, I'm you're asking something from someone who's quite modest, but Wolflands, we're going to be talking about multi-phenomena research, essentially cryptid research, coupled with light form phenomena, a few UFO accounts, all within a concentrated area of East and North Yorkshire. And hope you enjoy.
That's it in summary, in closing. Thank you so much, Paul Sinclair. And where can people find you and your amazing research?
We have a website, truthproof.uk, where anybody can contribute. And we do a live stream every Thursday, time permitting, and that's just the Truth Proof live stream on YouTube. Thank you.
Brilliant, Paul Sinclair. Thank you, everybody. You can catch Paul Sinclair talking about the Wolflands at this year's Awakening UFO and Conscious Life Expo. I'm Kristen Gillespie, your conscious investigative reporter, and I'm signing off for now in humble service to humanity and all sentient beings. Paul, will see you at the event for a more in-depth interview. Thank you so much.